Good afternoon and thank you for joining us for KREM 2 News First at 4. I'm Mark Hanrahan. Whitney is on assignment today. Politicians and activists are reacting to news of the leaked draft opinion from the Supreme Court that would overturn Roe v. Wade, a case that for the last 50 years guarantees abortion rights in every state across the country. The draft was released by Politico last night. It's penned by Justice Samuel Alito. Today, Chief Justice John Roberts confirmed it is authentic but not finalized. The court's conservative majority appears set to change course, meaning abortions would be decided on a state-by-state basis. Taking a look back at the history of the law, in January of 1973, the Supreme Court decided the outcome of Roe v. Wade, resulting in the legalization of abortion in the U.S. In a 7-2 vote, the court made it legally possible for a woman to terminate her pregnancy within the first 3 months. In cases between 4 and 6 months of pregnancy, individual states could establish laws regulating the operation. States were granted the right to prohibit abortions during the last 2.5 months of pregnancy when the fetus can live outside the womb. Many states were forced to make dramatic revisions in their laws in order to abide with the Supreme Court ruling. The court decided to hear arguments this session in response to a Mississippi law banning abortion after 15 weeks, essentially bringing the Roe v. Wade decision back into consideration. The leaked opinion shows Roe would be overturned in a 5-4 vote. It is important to note here that this is just a draft opinion written back in February, and justices can and have changed their minds before final opinions are issued. That is expected to come in late July, by the way. A leak of an opinion is unprecedented. Reacting to the leak today, Chief Justice John Roberts, releasing a statement calling it a betrayal of the court. He is directing the court's marshal now to launch an investigation to determine the source of the leak. Other politicians also calling for an investigation into the leak, including Minority Leader Senator Mitch McConnell.
This lawless action should be investigated and punished to the fullest extent possible.
Abortion rights activists across the country are reacting to the news today. Local Planned Parenthood officials call the possible overturning of Roe v. Wade devastating. KREM 2's Janelle Finch live where Spokane residents are expected to rally against the Supreme Court draft opinion. Janelle?
Mark, in just an hour, this space outside the downtown courthouse should be filled with people. Spokane residents, like you said, are expected to rally here for a person's right to choose. Earlier today, I spoke with a Planned Parenthood official a little bit more about his response to the possible overturning of Roe versus Wade. He says patients should not be worried about losing the right to an abortion. In March, Jay Inslee signed the Affirm Washington Abortion Access Act into law. This law protects abortion access and care in Washington state. The vice president for Planned Parenthood for Greater Washington and North Idaho says state health facilities are preparing for an increase in abortion-seeking patients should national court decisions be overturned.
With all the other states that have enacted bans, if Roe v. Wade falls, Washington state would expect to see a 385% increase in patients who are seeking abortion access in our health centers. And we know that many of those patients will be coming to Eastern Washington.
There are 30 Planned Parenthood centers in Washington state. 23 of those locations offer abortion services. Oregon has 11 Planned Parenthood clinics, and Idaho has 3 clinics. The vice president for public affairs says 43% of patients seeking abortions at the Spokane Valley and Pullman health clinics are Idaho residents. Back in March, Governor Brad Little signed a pro-life bill that bans abortions after 6 weeks. The Idaho Supreme Court issued an order that temporarily blocks that law. Live in Spokane, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
Janelle, thank you very much. Meantime, in Washington, a large rally was held for abortion rights with more than 20 community leaders and advocates speaking in Seattle's Kerry Park today. Governor Jay Inslee spoke today on Washington's commitment to keep abortion safe and legal in the state.
But there is a reality we have to understand. Yes, abortion is available to Washingtonians today. Yes, we voted in 1970 to pass a law to make sure that it is available today. But we have to understand that the moment the Washington State Legislature came under the control of a party dedicated to take that right away from women, that right would be gone. So these legislative seats are incredibly important to keep. Our border is open with Idaho today. We want to keep it open. Our airports are open to women road services. We want to keep it open, and our bus stations. To keep that right open, we have to elect people who will stand up for the right of women to have access to an abortion.
Well, last night, hundreds of demonstrators on both sides of the issue gathered outside the U.S. Supreme Court after Politico published that report. President Joe Biden, meantime, weighed in today on the leaked Supreme Court opinion. President Biden said if the draft opinion stands, it would be, quote, a radical decision, and returning the issue to the states would be, quote, a fundamental shift for the country.
If it becomes a law and if what is written is what remains, it goes far beyond the concern of whether or not there is the right to choose. It goes to other basic rights, the right to marry, the right to determine a whole range of things.
Well, there has been talk today about the Senate voting to make Roe v. Wade the law of the land, but it would need a Senate and House majority large enough to overcome the filibuster. When asked today if the Senate should abolish the filibuster to vote on Roe, the president said, quote, I am not prepared to make those judgments now, but he continued that he supported making Roe into law. Meanwhile, top Democrats across the country are sharing their reaction to the potential overturn today. They say they plan to hold that vote to make Roe v. Wade into law.
69% of people across this country, red states and blue states, old people and young people, want Roe versus Wade to maintain as the law of the land. We need to do that, and we have a right.
This is as urgent and real as it gets. We will vote to protect a woman's right to choose, and every American is going to see which side every senator stands.
Meantime, a majority of Republicans in Congress support overturning Roe v. Wade in favor of states' rights.
The outcome will be that each state will decide. And so bright blue states like California, New York, presumably will continue to allow unlimited abortion on demand. And redder states, like my home state of Texas, presumably will enact reasonable and meaningful restrictions on abortion.
The Roe v. Wade decision divided America, didn't bring us together. It's one of the most controversial decisions in the history of the court. I always thought it was a constitutional power grab. So if it does hold, and it is in fact overturned, then it goes back to the states, and let's see how that process goes.
We are, of course, continuing to follow any updates on this story. For the latest, you can head to our website, which is krem.com. In other news today, Spokane police say a woman was shot overnight and went to the hospital with serious injuries. Just one of 5 reported shootings last night, which SPD responded to. Police say that all happened within a 2-hour period. The first call came in around 10:30 p.m. in the Hilliard area, and that is where we find our Amanda Rowley tonight on Dalton Avenue. She spoke with neighbors and shares what we know so far. Amanda?
Mark, the first reported shooting that happened last night happened right here on this street in Hilliard. Now, at least one of the rounds shot through the windows of this truck. In fact, this truck is owned by former city council member Mike Fagan. Then, just before midnight, another shooting was reported just a block away, and that shooting left a woman with very serious injuries. Now, we do know Spokane police responded to 5 reported shootings, but only 4 of those shootings were confirmed. Police have not confirmed which home on Dalton Avenue the woman was shot at, but they say it appears a shooter or shooters walked up to the home and fired about 20 rounds inside. Now, small children were also inside the home, but the woman was the only one injured. Mike Fagan told me he heard the gunshots that hit his truck last night, and after learning it was one of 5 other shootings last night, he says he is worried for Spokane.
Whether or not this series of shootings last night was a drug cartel competition or what, I just can't help but to feel that there was drugs involved in this somehow, some way, just by virtue of the series of events.
Now, Fagan's car was one of a few others also hit during the 2-hour period when these shootings happened. At Elm and Knox, we found a car with several bullets where they pierced the car's windshield and doors. Now, this afternoon, I also had a chance to speak with the assistant police chief about how the mayor's newly formed violent crimes task force is responding to these string of shootings. I'll have those details tonight at 5. Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
Amanda, thank you very much. Meantime, prosecutors are seeking the death penalty for Lori Vallow. That's according to court filings from late Monday. Lori Daybell, and her husband Chad Daybell are currently in custody in Idaho for the deaths of Lori's 2 children, Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow. Both Lori and Chad pleaded not guilty to all charges against them. Chad Daybell also faces the death penalty if he is convicted. Let's talk weather, Jeremy.
Well, right now it's a mix of clouds and sun here in Spokane and across much of the inland Northwest. A mild one for us with temperatures finally in the 60s. We made it 64 here in Spokane, upper 50s in North Idaho. Coming up after the break, we're going to talk a mild Wednesday and then, well, a shift in the weather pattern that takes us into the weekend.
All right, Jeremy, thank you very much. And thank you for watching KREM 2. Before we head to the break, just a reminder, the KREM Cares Diaper Drive is happening right now, and all the money raised goes to buy diapers for families in need. So here's more on how you can help.
When I was at my lowest and I came to them saying, like, this is my last diaper, this is my last package of wipes, they helped me.